Scion was created as really an experiment. The brand itself was developed to reach a new buyer, a new customer that Toyota and Lexus did not reach. When Scion was initially created, we really weren't looking at motorsports in general. But as we got more involved with our owners and with the sport, we understood that it was very important to be involved in the right type of motorsports. We started looking at drift, and that was absolutely the right area to be in.
At the end of 2007, I was approached by a good friend of mine from RSR, Ben Chong, and he proposed to me this idea of running a front-wheel drive converted rear-wheel drive vehicle in Formula Drift. And at first I was kind of surprised because I've never really dealt with anything like this, and so I asked him what car this would be. He said the Scion TC. So I was a little bit taken back and skeptical about the whole idea, but I was always looking for challenges, so I gave in, and that was the start of my relationship between myself, RSR, and Scion.
When we first started off with the TCs, I know there was a lot of questions. Was it authentic? Was it the right vehicle to have? We feel that we totally did the right thing. The vehicle was an all-wheel drive vehicle out of Europe. It had a drive tunnel. It was made to be rear drive. So that part was not a question. But to convince our audience and to convince our competitors that we should have been there, that's been a little bit of a tough battle.
I realized what Scion was. I saw Kengushi, I saw his car, and I learned that it was a Toyota-backed program, and I learned what Scion was.
What we really liked about Drift, and we watched it for many years as we were growing, is that it had the right demographic, it had the right amount of excitement, and it had this interactive experience that no other motorsport has.
I think the first year everyone was like, huh? And then by the end of the first year, right around when Tanner's V8 car was like unbelievably awesome, I think people started to get it.
I think the competition level of Formula Drift drivers have come a long way. Whether it's through the natural course of competition where more competitors, more competitive competitors, and just going against each other has risen the bar. I think that's a big part of it. I think we're starting to see drivers of different dimensions that are coming from different places in the world where they bring their own style and their own expertise.
Through my years with RSR and that partnership, I actually became really close with the Scion brand, and they had actually hired me to be the driver of their ride and drive events at their dealership events, and their special guests when they would bring out their customers.
I got a call that winter from certain Stefan Papadakis, and I had already met Stefan that summer. He came over to our pits. Our pits was out in the dirt, where we're super grassroots during our rookie season FD. And on that phone call, he said, Frederick, there's a chance that Tanner might be stepping away from drifting and would like to have you as a driver. And I turned speechless.
I thought that, okay, well, maybe this guy sees a lot of potential in Frederick. And it proved to be right. I mean, Frederick is an extremely talented driver. He's become really successful.
Stepping into Tanner's old seat was a big void to try and fill. Tanner rose through the ranks of Formula Drift pretty quick. He came in just out of nowhere and schooled everyone, made his own ways, and earned a championship in 07 and 08 with Stefan. Then they took on the Scion program in 09 and 2010. Did really well with that as well. He was always a big inspiration for me. I think he's an inspiration to any drifter out there, and what he accomplished is truly remarkable. Back-to-back championship. So far, he's the only driver to accomplish that.
The way I looked at it was, well, yeah, it would be great to have him on our team because I can definitely learn a lot from him. He's a lot more experienced than I was. And he was very successful with the Scion brand with Steph Papadakis and the Rockstar TC. And that car was a whole different build compared to our RSR TC, but in the end, both cars proved to be successful.
Now fielding 3 cars with 2 of the FRSs, I think it's really smart, but I think it's, it was a really cool way to come in, understand the sport, and then really come in a way that was like I think they appreciate the sport, and I think fans appreciate Scion. It's just because they were able to go from these kind of different builds that were not quite like everyday drift cars, to go from that to now delivering what's the absolute most authentic, organic drift car you can buy is amazing.
The Scion brand is still relatively young, compared to a lot of the manufacturers out there. And with motorsports, they might be one of the youngest. And to have them come into drifting as their first, serious form of motorsports package, it just proves a lot to a lot of the consumers, saying, what kind of a brand it is, what sorts of activities or what kinds of genres of motorsports they embrace. And drifting, since it caters to a lot of the youth movement and more exciting factor of motorsports, it just fits Scion as a brand to be part of this motorsports, part of this generation, part of this genre.
It's come a very long way. So now within 10 years, it has positioned itself as a true brand among all the other established brands. And for me, Scion is about two things: diversity and individualization. And I think what Scion does in drifting is a very good mirror image of that, because you have probably one of the most diverse teams out there. And I think Scion can go really far with that ideology.
For us, FD was a natural extension of what we wanted to do. It was an experiment that we wanted to try out, and that's working out perfectly for us. There's been no question that we definitely should be here. We've paid our dues, and we're doing as much as possible to improve within the sport itself.